Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to chat a little bit about speaker wire, speaker cables, RCA cables, and all that kind of stuff. Is it snake oil? Is it real? Does it work? We all have our opinions. This topic has no doubt been argued about like crazy. It's been beat to death. Sorry about that. It's been beat to death on the forums like crazy. I'm just a guy here that's going to share his experience, and hopefully we don't really get into a crazy argument in the comments section. I've owned a few different pairs of kind of like everything. Sorry, there's a little piece of lint right here. It was really bothering me. So look, I'm just going to get into it, man. This bad boy here, this is like kind of the first pair of speaker wires I used for a while. This is made by Sewel Direkt. They're like $30. This was a 10-foot run. I bought it off their website, and it came with a left and right pair. These are not the original terminations at 2 o'clock in the morning. One day I just like got super weird and thought like I'm gonna make these better or something and re-terminate them, and I did a terrible job. But yeah, these served me well for a long time. If all you've got is $30 to spend on speaker wire, I totally recommend these. Okay, now I had these for 2 years, and like most guys, I got the upgrade bug a little bit. I wanted to get something that looked a little cooler. My cables were very exposed because I use bookshelf speakers. And look, I get it. I know saying I wanted speaker cable that looked cooler might sound kind of lame to some of you guys, or like a stupid thing. I understand that. Trust me. I wish I wasn't like that, but that's how I am. I care how stuff looks in my system. So I'm going to put these down. I'm going to show you what I ended up buying, but first I'm going to tell you why I bought them. I was reading this company's marketing literature, and they said that they made cables and wires for satellites for freaking NASA. So I bought them. That company is Analysis Plus, and these are their cables. This is the Black Oval, I believe it's called. The Sewel cable I showed you earlier, that was $30. That was a 12 gauge. This is also a 12 gauge. That was 10 feet. This one is 12 feet. That one was $30. This one is $370. That's more than 10 times the cost, right? It's got some cool features, I guess. Like there's a speaker side and an amplifier side. Now, do I believe that's a real thing? It seems kind of hokey pokey that there's a speaker side and an amplifier side, but I figured screw it. I spent $370 on speaker cables. At least I could take the manufacturer's direction and plug them in the way they tell me to, so I did. Initially, I didn't think they really sounded any different than the $30 cables. I rocked them for a while. And then upon, going back and plugging my cheap cables back in some months later, the cheap cables or cheaper cables did sound just a little bit duller, just a little bit, not a lot. I had to live with these for a really long time to notice a difference. It's not like upgrading your speakers and just immediately you hear this huge difference. So if you don't have the budget for expensive cabling, don't worry about it. Get what you can afford, and if that's a $20, $30 cable, like that's okay for now. You can upgrade later. This is not one of those wow upgrades, in my opinion. I'm gonna put this, interestingly enough, I was rocking these for a while, and I'm gonna tell you one thing I just hate real quick, because I ordered these and they were supposed to come with banana plugs. That's what I requested on the website, and instead they came with these things. I don't know if that's going to focus or not, but those are BFA plugs. They're not the same damn thing. They're not. These BFA plugs are friction fit. Banana plugs are nice and easy, plug, unplug. These are a pain in the ass. That really annoyed me. So at the end of the day, I upgraded a third time. While these were cool looking and sounded ever so slightly better, I went to an event held by a local audio society. And if you've got a local audio society in your area, check it out. You'll probably have a great time. I went to this event and I saw a pair of speaker cable that was $40,000. Now, I didn't buy the shit, but it did get me thinking, like, I loved the look of these $40,000 cables. They were like braided and like just like this thick, and they just looked so cool. And my speaker wire is really exposed, and I wanted that cool look. Again, I get it. Like, we're over here talking about sound, you know, or we're supposed to be talking about sound and I'm talking about looks. But like that shit matters to me. If it doesn't matter to you, like that's okay. You can get whatever you want. But I went online and I found this company called Maze Audio. And Maze Audio makes a speaker wire called the Ref 4. And this is the Ref 4. This is quad 12 gauge wire. So it makes a 9 gauge essentially. There's this little splitter or ferrule barrel thingy here. 90-degree real banana connectors. Interesting thing about these, when I was ordering these, I was talking to the owner, I believe, Kent, and I asked him if I could have straight connectors instead of the 90-degree, and he was like, no, you can't. And I asked why, and he said, well, I didn't ask why. He actually told me. He wasn't just like, no. He said the straight connectors could not bear the weight of the cable because this is a heavy cable, and he's right. Like, this is a pretty heavy cable. I believe him. He said he would do it, but he wouldn't warranty it. So I figured it'd be best that I just take his advice and go with the 90-degree connector. I love this cable. I think it looks so awesome, and it is, interestingly enough, a sound upgrade a little bit further from the Analysis Plus, and it's cheaper. This is a 12-foot run. This cable starts at $170 and is an extra $20 a foot. I think after that I also added a second one of these thingies to the amplifier side, and all in I was about like just under $300, you know. So it's cheaper, it looks cooler, it sounds a little fuller, and what I mean by that is you'll see this on some reviews of Analysis Plus cables. People say they sound a little thin. I didn't really understand what people meant by that. I thought they sounded cool or like good enough. But these just sound like fuller. They just sound a little bit fuller. Again, remember, these are like minor changes. Anyone who tells you speaker cable made like some massive difference in their sound system, my guess is they're either bullshitting you, it's like an emotional or psychological thing, or they had some problem with the speaker wire. Speaker wire is made out of copper. Copper ages, it corrodes, it tarnishes very quickly when exposed to oxygen. It's a very reactive metal. So these are what I use now, and absolutely love them. I would not be without them. If you're in the market for speaker wire in the $170, or if you need longer, whatever. But $170 gets you 8 feet. So if that's your budget, I highly recommend these. The quad braid also is supposed to assist with shielding and some other things. You can see more information about that on mazeaudio.com. They can say it a lot more eloquently than I can. I don't fully understand it. I do believe it's real, the shielding, because I have like a ton of cabling back there, and it just makes me feel better that there's like shielding, I guess. And look, part of like the audiophile hobby is psychological. It just is. And that is why I have $100 RCA cables. Psychological again. The speaker cables did really sound better, but these Analysis Plus RCA cables, I'm not sure if they really sound better or not. I think they do. I feel like really good knowing I have them. I'm like, look, I get it. I know how crazy that sounds. Like, dude, you spent $100 on cables because emotionally they make you feel better. Like, yeah, I did that, you know. I had the monoprice cables for a while. They're here somewhere. These served me well. If you want cheap RCA cables, I had no problems with these, made by monoprice. Interestingly enough, there were some other cheap cables I did experiment with. Foss Power, and where's the other one? Cable Direkt. So not all cheap cables are created equal as far as RCA cables go. This Foss Power cable, I plugged this in for my subwoofer one time, and I left everything else the same, and all of a sudden my music started skipping. A very bizarre thing. My music streams from my iPhone 10. It goes to an Audio Engine B1 Bluetooth receiver and DAC, and then via RCA cables made by Analysis Plus to my amplifier. And with this plugged into my subwoofer, from amplifier to subwoofer, my music started skipping. I had a hard time believing it was actually the cable. I swapped it out for this Cable Direkt one, and I also swapped it out for the Analysis Plus cable, and every time the Foss Power cable was in, my music would skip. So it does have less shielding. It is a thinner cable. The connectors are somewhat poor quality. If you squeeze them, you can like really collapse the spring. I do not recommend Foss Power. If you're in the market for cheap RCA cable, I do recommend the Cable Direkt. I'll show you a little close up. The Cable Direkt, you can see, has a much nicer connector. It's a little bit thicker as well on the jacketing. So Cable Direkt or monoprice for lower cost RCA cable. Back to my Analysis Plus. RCA cable, look, they're purple, they're kind of weird, like they make me feel good. I do think they sound a little bit better, but it's like you have to like listen for it so much that it all, like, you start to go crazy. I don't know if you guys have ever like tried to A and B something, and like the difference is so minor, you almost like start to trick yourself, and like it gets really psychological and weird. So usually when that happens, the hobby stops being fun for me. So I just kind of throw in the towel, and I'd rather tell you, I don't know. I don't know if the $100 RCA cables make a difference. The speaker cables, I could tell you, like, yeah, they made a little difference, and I was happy with it. I was totally happy with the price, totally happy with the look, very happy with the customer service. Power cables, however, I don't have experience with, so I'm not going to talk about them. Upgraded power cables. USB cables, I don't really use in my system. However, I do have an interesting tidbit of information. I bought this little guy to measure USB power output because I wanted to make sure I was charging one of my devices at 2 amps. And a lot of USB cables couldn't put out 2 amps, even though I was using a 2 amp power block. So if you do use USB cables, try to use a quality cable. That doesn't mean it has to be necessarily expensive. Remember, the speaker cable that I ended up liking the most, that looked the best, and sounded the best, was not the most expensive one. It was almost $100 cheaper than the Analysis Plus. Maze Audio claims it'll go toe-to-toe with pretty much anything out there, and I'll be honest, I believe them. I don't believe in $10,000 cables. The people that make $10,000 cables, one company in particular, was caught putting up like fake sound clips. They would put up one sound clip that sounded like crap, then they'd plug in their cable and play the same sound clip, but it was actually a beefed up sound clip. And they would try to say like, look, our cable makes the sound better. But it was really just a juiced up track, and that's really shady. You can go on the internet and find out which company it was. I'm not going to really put anyone on blast. But HDMI cables, I use the cheap $6 to $8 ones. I don't think you need anything better than that. It's a digital signal. It's on or it's off. You know, if you've had a different experience, that's cool. And I want to make sure to really, put that point forward, that if your experience is different than mine, if you think no cable makes a difference, like, that is cool. I won't argue with you, man. I really won't. I thought that for the longest time. I really did. It doesn't matter. Like, this is my hobby. It's your hobby. I'm gonna enjoy it the way I want to, and I want you to enjoy it the way that you want to. And that's like kind of for like everything. Like, some people think power conditioning is really important. Some people don't. For the record, I don't give a shit about power conditioning, but I also live in a brand new luxury apartment. I don't think I need it. I've tried it. It did nothing for me. So I think speaker cables, all cables and wiring, it depends on your other components as well, I'm sure, and your ears. Not everyone can hear the same thing. The hobby is subjective to a degree. I think the most important thing is that you just enjoy it. Don't get too OCD about the shit. I gotta catch myself sometimes. I get like too obsessive, with my subwoofer position or like certain settings. And sometimes I'll spend like hours adjusting instead of actually sitting back and enjoying. And I don't like that. There's times that I want to stop adjusting and I just can't because I'm like in like some kind of freak out mode. But that's my get down on speaker cables, man. I highly recommend Maze Audio Ref 4 cables. I'll be honest, like, mostly because of how badass they look. Like, they just look so killer to me. And I like the Analysis Plus RCA cables. I have kicked around the idea of switching my Analysis Plus RCA cables to the Maze Audio Ref 4 so that they match these. But I feel like I've already spent like enough money on like cabling, and like I've spent more money on speaker wire than I have on my amplifier. So I think I'll throw in the towel there. I hope you enjoyed this. I tried to keep it brief. I hope it was somewhat informative for you. buy whatever makes you happy ultimately, and as long as you feel good about it, I think you made the right decision. Until next time, I hope you enjoy your music and take care.